Up next in the broadcast, after not being able to pass a single bill for 5 months, the National Assembly broke through its gridlock on a measure to investigate April's ferry disaster. More companies here in Korea have a positive outlook on economic conditions, with more optimists than pessimists on the Business Survey Index for the first time in almost half a year. Hong Kong civil unrest continues as protesters demand China grant them fully democratic elections. Demonstrators have also called for Hong Kong's current leader to step down. Primetime News begins now.
Welcome to the program. You're watching Primetime News live from Seoul. I am Kang, Chery.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We start with the breakthrough at the National Assembly, where the months-long parliamentary gridlock is finally over.
That's right. Korea's main rival parties agreed to mend their differences over the Sewol-ho ferry bill and attended Tuesday's plenary session together, but without the support of the bereaved families. Our Ji Myung-kil has more.
After last-minute one-on-one talks between the ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy, both parties' floor leaders finally reached an agreement on the Sewol-ho ferry bill. The special bill, which will uncover the causes of April's ferry disaster, has been the focal point of the parliamentary impasse over the past few months. The rival parties' floor leaders agreed that the second agreement made on August 19th is still valid, but that another clause will be added. The new clause states that both rival parties will be able to jointly recommend 4 independent council candidates, while President Park Geun-hye will appoint one of them to lead the fact-finding committee in charge of investigating the ferry disaster. And whether to allow the victims' families to participate in the appointment process of the state prosecutor will be discussed later on. Representatives of the families of those killed in the April ferry tragedy from Danon High School, however, stand opposed to the bill's newly reached terms and said it would not be accepted. The two parties agreed to pass a special bill by the end of October, along with a series of other anti-corruption-related bills. With this, rival party lawmakers gathered inside the plenary hall on Tuesday, signaling a start to normalization of parliamentary affairs. During the plenary session, rival party lawmakers passed 91 draft bills and were able to regain their reputation as a functioning legislative body, following 150 days of not passing a single bill in the National Assembly. They also agreed to hold the annual parliamentary audit of the government starting October 7th. Ji Myung-kil, Arirang News.
North Korea's young leader has been missing from the public eye for nearly a month now, and his absence from a high-profile parliamentary assembly recently has only caused the rumor mill to swirl, leaving many speculating where he could be. Shin Se-min tells us more.
Kim Jongun, the authoritarian leader of North Korea, was last seen at a concert in Pyongyang with his wife Lee Sol-ju. It has been 27 days since, and Kim has been a public no-show. The North Korean leader missed the Supreme People's Assembly, an important parliamentary meeting he normally attends, sparking rumors of its whereabouts. Some speculate Kim could be suffering from gout, which is an inflammatory arthritis brought on by a diet of heavy sugar, alcohol, meat, and saturated fats, as well as genetics, after he was seen walking with a limp on North Korean Central TV. Another rumor points to possible surgery for the leader. According to independent broadcaster Free North Korea Radio, Kim had undergone ankle surgery at Ponghwa Clinic in Pyongyang, an exclusive hospital for high-ranking members, in mid-September to treat fractures, and still remains in hospital. Rumors of a military coup in the north have run rampant on Chinese microblogging website Weibo, with posts stating that Kim had been arrested after being overthrown. To this, the U.S. State Department has declined to comment on the possibility of a military coup in the communist state, saying that they can neither confirm nor deny the rumors. The North Korean leader's absence is making the headlines in many countries, but some experts say it's not a first, nor should there be alarm. Kim reportedly went absent for 2 weeks in 2012 and returned to the public eye with no explanation. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
And a new report shows that political instability in North Korea worsened last year. A World Bank report says North Korea is among the states in worst shape when it comes to political stability and absence of violence. This index saw a significant drop for the first time since 2010. Watchers say political variables such as the execution of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's uncle, Chang Song-taek, contributed to this drop.
Glenn Davies, Washington's chief envoy for North Korea policy, is here now in Seoul for talks on getting the six-party denuclearization talks back up. And according to him, the biggest problem with North Korea is that it's turning a deaf ear to the United States, South Korea, and China. Our Hwang Sung-im has more.
U.S. Special Representative for North Korea policy, Glenn Davies, says the biggest problem with North Korea is that it's not listening.
North Korea is not talking to any of us. It's not listening to any of us. And this is, I think, not the way to resolve the problems that, that we all face, including North Korea.
Visiting Seoul on a three-nation Northeast Asia trip on Tuesday, Davies met with his South Korean counterpart, Hwang Jung-guk, and Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se on ways to re-engage North Korea. The U.S. diplomat said Pyongyang has also turned a deaf ear to Washington's requests to release 3 American detainees.
We've sought to engage them. We've sought to dispatch senior officials to Pyongyang to talk to them. North Korea has chosen to reject our offers. I think that's a shame. That's a lost opportunity.
While the refusal to talk greatly contradicts North Korea's recent show of enthusiasm for diplomacy, Davies said North Korean Foreign Minister Lee Soo-yong's UN speech shows that nothing has changed.
I think it was, as we say in English, old wine in new bottles. There wasn't much different about it.
It's a valid point, considering North Korea has threatened the world with rocket launches no fewer than 19 times already this year. Hwang Sung-i, Arirang News.
Korea's top judge has stressed the need to set up a human rights court in the region to address the many human rights issues in Asia. And for Chief Justice Park Han-cheol, that includes Japan's wartime sexual enslavement of women. Kim Min-ji has details of this global gathering of justices.
Around 350 people from some 100 countries have gathered in Seoul to attend the Congress of the World Conference on Constitutional Justice. Hosted by the Constitutional Court of Korea, the event is being held under the theme Constitutional Justice and Social Integration.
We need to pursue international standards and ensure universal human rights. We also need to think about the effects that ruling may have on international relations.
In a keynote address, Chief Justice Park Han-cheol proposed the establishment of a special court in Asia that would deal with human rights issues. Indirectly referring to Japan's wartime sexual enslavement of women, he stressed the need for a regional court, saying that Asia had bore witness to human rights violation during times of war and that their sufferings continue to this day. Park noted the European Court of Human Rights as a potential model. He said the court brought integration and regional peace to the European Union. The court, which is comprised of 47 member states, was set up in 1959 by the European Convention on Human Rights. Park said when the Asian court is set up, it will bring about regional integration and give people more dignity. The 4-day conference will end on Wednesday with participants adopting a Seoul communique on the issues they discussed. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Your gateway to the day's biggest stories in Korea and around the world. Breaking news, the hottest interviews, and a whole lot more. Join Arirang Sean Lim and Kang Chery from the heart of Seoul.
Begins now.
Primetime news, weeknights, live at 10 on Arirang TV.
We're getting mixed signals about how stable Korea's economic recovery is. Business sentiment is looking up, and the latest industrial output didn't look so good. Kim Ji-yeon has more.
Many Korean companies believe the Korean economy has turned the corner, and they expect the government's expansionary policies and a U.S. recovery to improve their business in coming months. A survey of 600 companies by the Federation of Korean Industries shows that the Business Survey Index for October exceeded the 100 mark for the first time in 5 months. A figure over 100 means that optimists outnumber pessimists over economic conditions. The positive sentiment was shared among manufacturers. The Bank of Korea says its Business Survey Index of manufacturing companies edged up to 74 in September. That's 2 points higher than the previous month when the level was its lowest in 13 months. But the country's industrial output dropped by 0.6% in August from the previous month, switching to negative growth for the first time in 3 months. Statistics Korea attributes this to the drop in the number of working days due to summer vacations and a growing number of labor strikes in the automobile sector. An analyst from Korea Institute of Finance describes the discrepancy between the positive economic sentiment and the decline in industrial output.
It takes more than 1 or 2 months to reflect the changes in government policy and real economic indicators, but they're expected to improve in September due to a steady increase in exports and consumer sentiment.
The Federation of Korean Industries, however, cautions that it's too early to say that the Korean economy is on the steady path to recovery. It says the nation needs to overcome challenges posed by strengthening of the Korean won, the weakening Japanese yen, lackluster private consumption, and a slump in exports to China. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Korea's smartphone market is known to be a tough one to crack, mostly because of Samsung Electronics' presence and the country's unique mobile telecommunication structure. But those factors are apparently not stopping foreign manufacturers, including China's Huawei, from trying. Hwang Ji has the details.
Those in Korea trying to buy a new smartphone now have one more option. That is the X3 model from Chinese budget smartphone manufacturer Huawei Technologies, which hit local shelves on Tuesday. Huawei expects to lure Korean consumers with its affordably priced handsets, which are up to $400 cheaper than local brands like Samsung Electronics. Korea's smartphone market is considered difficult to break into, with most citizens loyal to Samsung and its domestic rival. Currently, the Korean tech giant controls around 60% of the local market, followed by LG Electronics. Apple, one of the world's most popular smartphone makers, holds below 10% of the local share. It's no surprise then that US-based Motorola gave up on the Korean market in 2012, while Taiwan's HTC also folded its Korean business in the same year. But it's not just Huawei that's aiming to take on the Korean smartphone market. Sony of Japan recently unveiled its high-end Xperia Z3 smartphone, which also boasts a cheaper price tag compared to local brands, pointing to even stiffer competition among local and foreign players. Hwang Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
The nation's tourism revenue has hit more than $1.5 billion last month, according to the Bank of Korea and the Korea Culture and Tourism Institute. The amount is up 50% on year and is the second highest monthly total ever, following only July of this year. The record numbers coincide with a record number of Chinese tourists coming to Korea. 4 million Chinese visited the country in the January to August period, up nearly 40% on year. In August, Chinese tourists made up more than half of all foreign visitors to Korea. This year marks the 450th anniversary of Shakespeare's birth, and to mark the occasion, one of his most beloved works, Romeo and Juliet, will be presented on the opera stage here in Korea. Our Park Ji-won takes us to the tribute.
The Korea National Opera presents the most famous love story of all time, Romeo and Juliet. French composer Charles Gounod wrote the opera version of this tragic yet beautiful story of love, fate, and death.
It took him 28 years to complete and premiered in 1867. To mark the 450th anniversary of Shakespeare's birth, the 5-act opera version of his play will take the stage, featuring an international cast along with Australian opera director Elijah Mushinsky, stage designer Richard Hudson, and conductor Julian Kovachev.
Italy, I feel Verona as my home city. I'm so happy to share these wonderful feelings with the Korean public, with the Korean National Opera, all musicians, because it's difficult to put out all these feelings what the composer put in, which is a special color, which is French.
World-renowned Italian tenor Francesco De Muro, Russian soprano Irina Lungu, and Korean opera singers are preparing to put on an intense and emotional performance. The opera will be staged for 4 days from this Thursday to Sunday and will run again during the Daegu International Opera Festival next week. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Tens of thousands of demonstrators are continuing their protest on the streets of Hong Kong, demanding China grant them fully democratic elections.
With more, we turn to Paul Yee at the News Center. Paul, reports are coming out that much of the city was shut down today as well, and it now appears the local authorities have scaled back their heavy-handed response.
Well, the world is closely watching, and the smoke from tear gas was nowhere to be seen on this fifth day of demonstrations. Pro-democracy leaders have set Wednesday as the deadline for the Chinese government to meet their demands or face further civil unrest. But Hong Kong's chief executive says Beijing will not back down. Our Connie Kim has the story.
Speaking out for the first time since demonstrations flared up over the weekend, Hong Kong's leader called on protesters to immediately end the rallies. C.Y. Leung, the country's chief executive, said China will not be backing down from its position on Hong Kong and that Beijing's decision falls under the basic law of one person, one vote. But pro-democracy demonstrators appear to be standing firm and have now demanded that Leung step down. Tuesday's protests have been relatively calm following the police crackdown Sunday, in which police used pepper spray and tear gas on the protesters. Schools and businesses around the government complex remain closed as thousands block the commercial district of Causeway Bay to Central's east and across the harbor to Kowloon's Mongkok. Over 50 people have been injured since the protests flared up on Saturday. Demonstrators are demanding universal suffrage in Hong Kong's 2017 elections and that Beijing abandon its plan to vet candidates for the post of chief executive.
We have a simple message, is that we just want a democracy and a fair voting of choosing our chief executive of Hong Kong.
Up until now, Beijing had been nominating the chief executive, and China was quick to warn other nations against supporting what it calls illegal rallies.
We hope that related nations show a considerate stance regarding the protest in Hong Kong and do not send out a wrong message to protesters.
However, the U.S. and Britain have both said the demonstrators' rights should be protected and the people of Hong Kong should be granted universal suffrage. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
And staying in Asia, rescue operations have been suspended on a Japanese volcano due to violent tremors, with the death toll there rising to 36 as of this Tuesday. The sudden eruption of Mount Ontake over the weekend has also raised fears that the country's biggest mountain, Mount Fuji, may also be ready to blow for the first time in hundreds of years. Our Son Jung-in tells us more.
Mount Fuji is the highest point on the Japanese archipelago, rising 700 meters taller than Mount Ontake. Located not far from major cities like Tokyo and Yokohama, the mountain has recently been showing some signs that an eruption may be coming, including sinking roads and receding lake waters in the area. Mount Fuji has discharged lava at least 43 times in the past 2,000 years. It erupts on average every 50 years, but has stayed ominously silent for the last 300. A recent research found that the 9.0 magnitude earthquake in Japan's east in 2011 increased the pressure beneath the volcanic mountain. If Mount Fuji were to erupt, experts warn of extensive damage. It could spell disaster for Shizuoka Prefecture with more than 750,000 residents left homeless. The harmful ash discharge could also damage the health of 12 million people residing in Tokyo and other metropolitan areas within the volcano's reach. Another problem lies in the evacuation system or lack thereof. According to a government study, 80% of areas threatened by the effects of a volcanic eruption have no viable evacuation plan. With thousands of hikers visiting Mount Fuji every day, concerns are rising that Japan should start preparing now before it's too late. 손정인, Arirang News.
And finally, taking a look at Forbes magazine's iconic rich list, Microsoft CEO Bill Gates has once again topped the rankings with an estimated net worth of $81 billion. Forbes said the software tycoon added $9 billion to his personal wealth over the last year, thanks to a rise in his remaining shares in Microsoft and other investments. The 58-year-old was also praised for his work done through his charity group, which has donated some $30 billion in the past 14 years. In its latest act of generosity, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has pledged $50 million towards fighting the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. And that wraps up our look at international stories making headlines around the world. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Hello and welcome. I'm Stephen Che with Tuesday's Asian Games Update. Now let me ask, who says age and experience are the only keys to success? South Korea's Park Sung-bin, who's probably still going through puberty, showed that youthful exuberance can also seize the day. At the ripe age of 13 years old, Park outperformed his competitors, some twice his age or more, to win the men's optimal one-person dinghy gold. Now, he was excellent in 11 races, only being penalized 16 times to become South Korea's youngest Asiad gold medalist in history. And next up, it's bowling. Lee Na-young has fast emerged as one of South Korea's most decorated athletes of these games after winning the all-events crown. Leading the women's team of 5 to a silver medal, Lee raised her points total for all events to 5,132 points in 24 games, winning gold by 37 pins and becoming South Korea's first 3-time gold medalist at the Incheon Asiad. And Park Jong-woo followed suit in the men's competition, winning the all-around gold after leading his team to a team of 5 gold medal. And over to Suwon Gymnasium for table tennis. Both the women's and men's team finals took place with China looking to sweep the top podium finishes. Now Japan, in its first ladies finals since 1966, were on a mission, but Team China won 3 matches to 1 for the three-peat. Meanwhile, the South Korean men sought to snap China's winning streak at 5 games, but were unmercifully swept in 3 matches. China hasn't lost since 1990. And now we go to Taekwondo. It's Korea's flagship martial art, but the first day of competition only had 1 Korean make it to the finals. That was in the women's under 53 kilo division. Chinese Taipei's Hwang Yeon-wen defeated South Korea's Yoon Jung-yeon to win the gold medal. Now Thailand's Chanatip Songkham took the under 49 kilo gold. Meanwhile, on the men's side, Iran's Masoud Hajizadeh scored the golden point for the under 74 kilo win. And Uzbekistan's Jasur Baykuziev won by points in the under 84 kilo weight class. And now to the mountain bike cross-country events of day 11. It was another display of dominance by the Chinese, who won both golds of the day. Wang Zhen set the quickest pace, beating out Hong Kong's Chen Cheng-hing by just 53 seconds for the men's top finish. On the other hand, Shi Qing-lang barely had any trouble blowing away her field by nearly 6 minutes en route to the gold medal. And finally, some good news for Korean football fans. The South Korean men defeated Thailand 2-0 to head to the finals. They meet North Korea for the epic showdown on Thursday. Well, that's all I have for now. I leave you now with the medal standings and a look at Wednesday's events. Good night.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome. At the moment, a light breeze is sweeping across the central regions under cloudy skies, while light sporadic showers continue to drop elsewhere. Those on the eastern coast are looking at up to 20 millimeters of autumn rain, and down south, approximately 5 millimeters will fall. The mountainous regions of Gangwon-do province should see the first morning frost of the season tomorrow, which is 16 days earlier compared to last year. Otherwise, Wednesday is shaping up to be a cool day with mostly clear skies nationwide. Also expect another bout of nationwide autumn rain this Thursday. Conditions over in Incheon look to be perfect for outdoor matches for Wednesday, so no worries of the weather getting in the way. Taking a closer look at the readings, Seoul, Daegu, and Busan hit 24, Gwangju 25. On to other places, Daejeon reaches 24, Jeju 23, Dokdo 18, Mount Kumgang 13. That's your weather on this Tuesday evening. Join me for more updates after midnight. See you then.
And that's Primetime News on this Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sean Lim.
And I'm Kang Chery. We'll see you soon again. Good night.